Hello and welcome back to Bank Reconciliations. Okay, so what we're looking at in this little section is just what happens if we look at the opening balance right at the start of step one of doing a bank rec. What happens if the opening balances don't agree? Okay, now it's the sort of thing that in the assessment they may well do. I mean, they quite often do where the opening balances do agree, but it may be a case they don't. You're just going to have to look on the day, okay, and see what's there in front of you, okay. But do be prepared for the fact, okay, that the opening balance might not agree. Now, in terms of this and why, okay, well, let's have a look at the illustration below here. You can see it's much easier to see it with some numbers on. We can talk through and explain what's going on. So look, we have here Signal Limited's cash book, okay, at the 16th of June is shown below, and we can see there quite clearly, 1st of June, the balance brought down £8,250, okay, so I'm expecting there to be £8,250 within the bank. However, if we go down and have a little look at the bank statement, we see the immediate problem that on the 1st of June, the balance brought down was £8,500. So instantly, these opening balances do not agree. Should we be surprised? Well, let's just think about this. Actually, no. Because if we did a bank reconciliation at the end of last period, we already knew that at the end of last period, the bank statement and the cash book didn't agree because there were unpresented checks and outstanding lodgements, okay? i.e. there were things that we had included within our cash book in the last period because we knew we'd either received some money from a customer, say, or paid something out to a supplier, but it didn't appear on the bank statement until a few days later, and it would appear slightly after the end of the period, okay? And that's all we're looking at here, okay, is that, right, they don't agree. Why? Because there must have been a timing difference at the end of last period, which is then just causing this anomaly at the start of the next period, okay? Now, if you think about what we would do here, and actually we can sort of see how this works quite nicely, in that if I try and tie up all the receipts and payments I'm dealing with, okay, well, looking at a receipt we've got here, we've got this receipt of 175 from Spencer Limited in my cash book, which I can very, very easily tie up to that receipt on the bank statement. I've then got two payments we make. Look, check number 127250 to Mark of 220, and then 127251 to JSB of 100. Okay, and those two things again tie up very nicely to those two payments. Okay, so we're happy with all of that. Okay, what we're looking at though is, hang on a minute, the bit we've not ticked off is this entry here, this check 127,249 of 250 quid. But let's just stop and think about this. We had an opening balance of 8,250, okay, on our cash book, and we had an opening balance on the bank statement of 8,500. So we had an opening difference of £250. Okay, that was our opening difference. Now, looking at the check numbers, okay, so, well, look, the first check we appear to have written this period is 127250. Looking at the check number here, 127249. So it looks like this has been written prior to that check to Mark Limited, okay? And so basically what has happened is that check 127249 will have been written in May. Okay, looking at where we're starting, remember we start on the 1st of June, we will have written out that check, that 127249 check, in May. And therefore, we will have included that in the cash book to the period ended 31st of May. Okay, the problem is, because the person I've sent that check to won't have had time to get it in the bank and the bank to process it, we had a timing difference last period. Okay, that was, okay, this will have been an unpresented check in the previous period. Okay, and actually you can see as soon as that check goes through, right, as soon as that check goes through, the balance drops to 8,250, which does agree to the opening balance per the cash book. Okay, so the whole point is when we've got that item there, okay, that check 127249 for £250, okay, the idea is that will relate to the last month, okay, and so we are not going to post it into the cash book in June, okay, so we won't post it to the cash book in June. Why? Because it would have been posted in the previous month, i.e. in May. Yeah, so it will have already gone through. So anything like that you just is a hangover from the previous period, anything that would have been, when you're reconciling items on your bank rec from the previous period, you can basically ignore this period, okay? So whereas ordinarily stuff that is on the bank statement, okay, we need to go and correct the cash book for, you don't do that if it's something that is a reconciling item, okay? Because it will already have been in the cash book for May. You don't need to then go and put it in June as well, okay? So that's why we always start with making the open balances agree. There may be one or two items you just need to pick up in terms of why the opening balance doesn't agree, okay? So that's what we would do then with opening balances. Watch out for that on the assessment. I mean, you should be familiar with the process we're going through, and that is step one. Step one is to agree the opening balances, okay? So you should be able to do that one. Hello, and let's move on with bank recs and let's have a look at lecture example 1, okay, and basically get us to do a bank rec from scratch here, okay? So we'll start off by taking a look at what we've got in terms of information and what we've got to do as a question, and then we can do some of the mechanics of it. So look, it's on the 28th of June. Cool Cats receive a bank statement as at the 23rd of June, okay, and assuming today's date is the 23rd then, okay, so we've got the statement of account, look, okay, so here is our bank statement, okay, as at the 23rd of June, so we've got a bank statement here at 23rd June from Cool Cats, so starting off with an opening balance that we've got in terms of what's there, okay, and so fine. We've then got all the payments going out and the receipts coming in. Now, just notice here that it does go, the little suffixes here go from C to D, okay? So C means credit, as it says down here. D means debit, okay? Now, remember, C, credit, because it's the bank, which means this is the wrong way round, okay? Is money in the bank. D, the debit, overdrawn, okay, on the bank statement, right? Not in our cash book, it's the other way round. So remember, the bank statement is the wrong way round. So when the bank is labelling on the statement C credit, it means there is money in the account, okay? Yeah, if the bank labels it D debit, it means you're overdrawn, okay? Remember, from the bank's perspective, if you're overdrawn, you now owe that money to the bank, okay? So as far as the bank is concerned, you are basically now a receivable, okay? You've got to pay them money, okay? So you're a receivable, and from the bank's point of view, you're a debit asset. As I said, bank statement's always the wrong way round compared to what we're used to, okay? But that's what we've got. That's what's just sitting there on the actual bank statement. We then have a cash book. Okay, so we've got our cash book as at the 23rd of June. So again, we've got all our receipts on one side. Then effectively we've got our dividing line, and we've got all our payments on the other side. Okay, so we've got our receipts and our payments on our cash book. Okay, so that's the information we are provided with, sort of information you'd be provided with in the assessment. And then ultimately we've got things that we need to do. Okay, so check the items on the bank statement and agree them to the cash book. Update the cash book as required. Total the cash book and clearly show the balances carried down at the 23rd of June and the balance brought down at the 24th of June. Complete the bank reconciliation statement at the 23rd of June. Okay, and it says don't make entries in dark shaded boxes in the reconciliation. Okay, so not in here. I'm not putting anything in there. That's do. To be fair, in the assessment, it would be fine because you wouldn't be able to click in that box anyway. Okay, it's up on the computer screen. Okay, but we're not looking to fill in any of that. And to do is bank rec. Okay, so fine. So remember, step number 1, the very first thing we do is check our opening balances. Okay, so per the bank statement, I've got a balance brought down of 15,189 credit. Okay, if I then go and have a look at the cash book, I have 15,189 brought down as cash in bank. Okay, so that agrees. Yeah, okay, so we do have an agreement at the start of the period, look, okay, in that the opening balance and the cash book, okay, are the same number. So we haven't got any reconciling items from the previous period that are hanging about, okay, that are potentially causing a problem. Okay, so that's fine. So the next part of step 1 is then to agree the receipts. Okay, so it's a case of, can I now on the cash book find 175 Animals Are Us? Okay, can I find 950? Okay, from the Birds Limited. And can we find 300 from Reptile House? Okay, so if we have a look then at the bank statement, well, the answer is no, I can't find all of those, sorry. Okay, I can find on the 16th of June that 175. Going the wrong way. Okay, because I can see here, look, paid in at Middle Bank, the 175. Okay, so yeah, so something they received on the 16th has then cleared the bank on the 23rd. So I've got the 175 going in. But that's it. Yeah, that's the only thing I can see going in there from my cash book. So what does that then tell me? Well, what that tells me is that they are my outstanding lodgements and they're reconciling items. Okay, I know this money is due to come in. Okay, but it has not done so yet. Okay, and so therefore those ones I can't tick off must be my reconciling items. Okay, so they are my outstanding lodgements, my reconciling items. So in which case they need to go onto our reconciliation statement. So they will end up coming down into this statement. Okay, so into here. Okay, so we'll do that in a minute when we get to that step. Okay, so remember that was step 1. Okay, we've identified some outstanding lodgements. Step 2, remember, was to then go and identify, okay, and do the same thing with our payments and decide which payments we have, okay, that we can go and see on our bank statement. Okay, so on here it's a case of, right, can I find on the 1st of June £10,000 to me hamster home? And I then come back to my bank statement and the answer is yes, I can find it there. Okay, I then come down to my next one and can I find 1420 and check 11043? Can I find that 1420 to Fishy Fun? Can I find that on my bank statement? And the answer is yes, I can. Right? And so you just keep running down that list. Okay, yeah, just keep running down your cash book and going, right, which items can we see on the bank statement? Okay, now so I don't keep scrolling, because if you're watching this on a screen or a tablet, you'll probably start feeling seasick if I carry on scrolling like that. So we can find Nuts and Co of 80. Okay, we can find the KLM one. Okay, we can find that 795. I can't find, though, the 652 to the DJO. I can find check 11047 to Rabbit, so I can see that one on there. Okay. I can't find That 450 of Doggy Den, okay, that doesn't appear to be anywhere. But I can see a direct debit to ABCD. So those can all be crossed off now, so to speak. Okay, so they're the ones I can see, and just so we can show it on the bank statement then. Okay, there is the cheque for £80. Okay, that 11044. Okay, so to Nuts and Co. There's your cheque 11047 going out to Rabbit Limited. Okay, there's your cheque 110045. Okay, going out to KLM. Okay, and there's your direct debit. Okay, going to ABCD of 150. Okay, so they are the items that we have managed to find. Okay, so we've got those. There was those 6 items, okay, that we've seen on the bank statement, we've seen in the cash book. Okay, so what does that then tell me? Okay, well, that tells me that these 2 items now, okay, are my unpresented checks. Okay, so again, these are our reconciling items. Sorry about my writing, trying to squeeze it in on the edge of a screen there, okay, but there are 2 unpresented checks, okay, and there are reconciling items. Okay, so we know we've written the check out. Okay, yeah, we've got the check stub, we know we've written it. For whatever reason, okay, our supplier hasn't yet taken that check, stuck it in the bank, and had time for it to clear the bank. Okay, now what that has done is great. Okay, so that's my step 2 done. I've sorted out my payments, okay, and I've agreed what's gone through the bank. Now remember, step 3 was a case of coming back to my bank statement now, because the problem is I now have some items on here. Okay, so I've got this credit from Pets & Co. I've got this direct debit for my rent, these bank charges, and this overdraft fee, which have all appeared on the bank statement. Okay, so they are legitimate transactions that have occurred, but they are not at the moment in the cash book. Okay, so those items there I've just highlighted in sort of orange. These are the ones we now need to go and correct the cash book for. Okay, so bear in mind when we were up to, okay, we have done that part. We've done part A in that we've checked the items on the bank statement against the cash book. Okay, what I'm now doing is I'm now in a position to do part B and update the cash book as needed. Okay, so this is where, right, if we now start to update our cash book. On the receipts side of things, okay, what do we need to update the cash book for? Well, on the 12th of June, okay, there was an amount that's come in from Pets & Co, okay, and there was that receipt of £571, okay, so off the bank statement that we just highlighted, there was that receipt of £571 coming in from Pets & Co, which now needs to form part of this cash book, okay, because we genuinely received that money. In terms of what has gone out, okay, that we couldn't agree, well, on the 20th of June, okay, there was a direct debit, okay, and that direct debit was rent. It was landlord rent, okay. My handwriting is not good enough to squeeze landlord rent into that tiny little box, so I'm just going to put down rent there, okay. So that rent of £850. Okay, we then had on the 23rd of June, okay, there were some bank charges. Okay, yeah, so there were the bank charges of £88. Now, in the assessment, when you click on the box for like rent bank charges, it will bring up a drop-down menu, so you can just select the item. Obviously, here I'm trying to write in my neatest handwriting, which is not great. The item, so yeah, rather than squash it in too much, there's the bank charges. And then also on the 23rd of June, again, this would be a drop-down menu, but I'm just going to scribble in now, the overdraft fee. Okay, so we had the overdraft fee of £30, which again, we know has gone through the bank, but we've not picked up and put in our cash book. Okay, so we've done all our ticking off, we've identified that, okay, and so, right, that's now allowed us to actually update the cash book for any items that have gone through the bank that we hadn't picked up, okay, so we have now essentially done part B and we've updated the cash book. Part C then is to now actually go through, total the cash book and clearly show all the balances brought down and all the balance carried down, okay, so right, this is where I come to my cash book, okay, and I now need to look at which side is bigger, the debit side or the credit side, okay, well, just the debit side is bigger, because if I total that lot up, it comes to 17,185, okay, so we should have 17,185 is what it totals down to. So therefore, the missing figure I need, 23rd of June, okay, and the balance, okay, which we are now going to carry down, is going to be £170, okay, so the figure I need in there to make that side balance is £170. In other words, we think we've got 170 quid in the bank account, okay. Now, if that's the balance carried down, that will mean, and that's what we've got at the end of the 23rd of June, right at the start of the 24th of June, we would have a balance brought down of £170. You can imagine, basically, at 11:59 on the 23rd of June, if you've got £170 in your bank account, well, you would expect at 12:01, okay, literally 2 minutes later, but the very start of the 24th of June, you've still got that £170 there sitting in your bank account, okay? So we've got a balance carried down, balance brought down, and there's the 170, okay? So in terms of what's just happened then, that has allowed me to do my part C, where I've totaled the cash book, clearly showed the balance carried down, which we've just done, and the balance brought down. Okay, so it's allowed me to do part C, okay, and finish off the cash book. What I now need to do is complete the bank reconciliation. Okay, so to come and do this, first of all, we need to pick up our balance per our bank statement. Now remember, this is literally what does the bank statement show at the end of the period. Okay, and so the balance on the bank statement at the end of the period at the 23rd of June is that there is £22 in our bank account. It's credit, okay, which remember means there is money in the bank there, okay, yeah, because bank statement's the wrong way round. So the balance per the bank statement is the £22. Now remember, we would add outstanding lodgements. Now you don't need to, you will never actually put this down in the exam, okay, in terms of outstanding lodgements. I'm purely noting it down here so we can see what it is. Even though it did specifically tell me above not to make entries in the dark shaded boxes, I know that, okay, but it's purely a note so we can see what's going on. In the real exam you won't need to do that, you will just need to put in the entries, okay. So remember, we had 2 outstanding lodgements. When we looked at our cash book, there were 2 items that had not yet cleared the bank. Okay, so there was that receipt from Birds Limited of £950, and there was also a receipt from Reptile House of £300. Okay, so those 2 amounts, okay, we'd entered them into the cash book, but they hadn't yet cleared the bank. They hadn't gone through the bank yet. Okay, so adding that together, that means I've got £1,250 now to add on. Okay. Now, the other thing that happens is we may have, remember, what we take off is the unpresented checks, okay? So, checks and stuff we know we've written, and so we'll be leaving the bank, but haven't yet done so, okay? So, looking at the payments side of my cash book, okay? Let's come to my cash book. What had we got as our unpresented checks, okay? So, we've got those 2 amounts to DJO Limited and to Doggy Den, okay? So, that's what we need to put through as our unpresented checks, okay? So we've got our DJO Limited, okay, and we need to, or we have already, I should say, written them a check of £450. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number. That's 652. Ignore me. God, crikey, I'm getting all ahead of myself, okay? Doggy Den, apologies. is the £450. Okay, yeah, right number, wrong label. Apologies about that one. So we've got 652 and 450. Okay, so we've got those two things there. So how much are we actually going to need to subtract? Okay, well, 1102. Okay, so fine. Now the final bit to enter is the balance per the cash book. Okay, well, per the cash book, remember, we've worked out that the final figure, okay, the amount at the end of the period is this 170. That's the balance on the cash book. Okay, so that's what should go in there. Now, the true test is, does this all balance? Okay, because does £22 plus 1250, okay, less 1,102 come to 170? Okay, and the answer, fortunately, is yes, it does. Okay, yeah, so 22 plus 1250 less that 1102 does indeed come to £170. Okay, and so therefore this is now reconciled. Okay, so I am a happy bunny. Okay, yeah, because my bank rec, the only reason that the balance on the statement and the cash book are different is not because anything's gone wrong or we've made an error. It's purely timing differences due to the fact there's a couple of receipts, okay, which I know we've had that haven't yet made it into the bank account, and a couple of payments I know we've made, which again haven't yet made it into the bank account. Okay, so there we have done and completed our reconciliation. Okay, so something you need to be familiar with, okay, and something you need to be able to do in this assessment. You could easily get a task along these kind of lines. Hello, and let's continue with looking at bank reconciliations and another example. Okay, now what you might find is, having sort of maybe looked at an illustration and an example, this might be one that you're quite happy to have a go at yourself, and in which case I wouldn't want to stop you from doing that. You do have the answers within the material that you can go and have a look at, or you can have a practice at it, come back, watch this, or if you want to, obviously, sit and watch me go through it. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so we'll have a look through this. Okay, so as we should hopefully be familiar with now, we have our bank statement. Okay, so fairly used to this hopefully by now. So we've got a list of what's gone in and out of the account, and indeed the bank balance there. We've got our cash book. Okay, so again, we've got our receipts and we've got our payments. Okay, so we've got our receipts and our payment side of the cash book. So again, hopefully getting familiar with that. What are we going to do? Check the items on the bank statement against the cash book, update the cash book as needed, total the cash book and show the balance carried down and then brought down, and complete the reconciliation statement. Okay, and the reconciliation statement is below to complete. Okay, so that's what we've got to do. So thinking about our steps process to do that, step one then is to agree the opening balance. Okay, and so what have I got here? Okay, well, I've got an opening balance then on the cash book of 23,569 versus an opening balance on the bank statement of 23,719. Okay, fine. All right, so it doesn't agree. So we're in that situation where it doesn't agree. Remember, what am I expecting here? I am expecting this to be because of something from the previous period. Okay, so and on the basis that at the moment, okay, we have less money in the cash book, we've only got 23,569 there, than is showing on the bank statement. I'm thinking there's probably some sort of unpresented check from the last period. Okay, now if we just have a look, then we're starting here, okay, in the cash book this period with check number 111072, okay, and if I then have a look at the bank statement, actually that very first entry is check 111071. So looking at the check number, that looks like it's a November check, okay? And so actually, by the time that 150 gets paid out, you get to the 23,569, okay? So what this means, okay, is that this figure is a reconciling item from prior period, and essentially I'm going to ignore it this period, okay? Yeah, so I'm not worried about that line. That was actually a check that would have been written in November, that was recorded in the cash book in November, but hasn't cleared the bank until December, okay? So that is one of those items that was a reconciling item from last period, okay? And therefore we're just going to ignore it, okay? It's nothing actually to do with our December reconciliation we're doing here, okay? So from there, we'll crack on as normal. And so having now effectively agreed the opening balance, because we've sorted out that opening reconciling item, I can then look to tie up the receipts. Okay, so remember, to tie up the receipts, what I'm doing... a little bit farther, is I'm now running down the receipts in my cash book and going, can I find these on the bank statement? Okay, so can I find that amount of 321? Yes, I can. Can I find an amount of 1550? Okay. Now, I've got a slight issue here because I can, but we seem to have number one. Okay, so we might need to think about this one a little bit more carefully, because I can definitely cross off one of those, can't I? Okay, we'll have a little bit of a think about that one later. It throws up an interesting point, that. And can I see that 21st December there, that 500 chart topper? No, I can't. Now, let's just go and see that on the bank statement. Okay, so I can see that we've turned around, okay, and the first thing we can see we've paid in that 321. I'm happy with that one. And I can see we've paid in that 1550. Okay, so that's fine, they agree. Let's have a look. Now, things I don't have. Okay, this one I'm quite happy with, this chart topper. That's an outstanding lodgement, okay? Happy with that one, fair enough, yeah, I know I've had this money coming in, it's not gone through the bank. This makes me very suspicious because it's number one. That's the description of it, okay? It's listed two ways, and it's exactly the same amount, okay? And so what we're going to do is say, look, actually, this amount here, okay, is actually a duplicate. Yeah, we've basically put in that receipt from number one of £1,550, and we've put it in twice. Okay, so that is actually an error that we have made in our cash book. Okay, so we are going to need to go and fix that one. Okay, and so, yeah, that's how we've done it. You can see it's the sort of thing somebody would do if we were doing this in ye olden times using ye manual system. Then this is exactly the sort of thing that we might go and do and accidentally put something in twice. Okay, so we have a duplicate entry there, which is a genuine error, so we're going to need to correct that, and we do have an outstanding lodgement. Okay, so fine, we've got that bit. Now, in terms of then step one, opening balance, essentially agreed, receipts, essentially agreed. So my step two then, remember, is to now go through and find which payments are we happy that we can see on the bank statement. So I'm happy with the £1,000 there in relation to Jedwood. Okay, I'm happy with the 1107 or the £545, okay, to Louis Lou, and we'll go back and just cross them all off in a minute. Okay, I'm happy with the 150 to Kelly & Co. I can see the 895 for GB Limited, sorry. I can't see X-Factor Limited. I can't see an amount 635, so I don't have to worry about that one. I can see, though, 1599 for TT Limited. Okay, so I can see that in the bank statement. And I can't see then that 735 from Barlow Brothers. So we've got, 5 entries there. And just we'll go and I'll show you on the bank statement if you haven't already seen them. Okay, so we've seen those 4 checks, okay, so are all together. So we've seen those 4 checks all go through, and also that check go through. Okay, so in terms of what we've got, there are 5 entries that we know have gone through the cash book, okay, that we can also see on the bank statement. Okay, so no problem with those. What does that then leave me on my bank rec? Okay, there's our 2 unpresented checks. Okay, so we know we've written out a check to X Factor Limited and to Barlow Brothers. Okay, they just haven't cleared the bank yet. Okay, so we've got our unpresented checks there. Okay, so that's my step 2, do those payments. Step 3, okay, is then to identify what is now on the bank statement, okay, that fundamentally should be in the cash book because it's happened. So I've got a receipt from Simon & Co, and then I've got 4 payments. Got a couple of direct debits here, one for a Walsh, one for electricity, and then a couple of bank fees, okay, bank charges and an overdraft fee. Okay, so they've charged me a couple of amounts there. So the bits in orange, remember, okay, these are all the things where we're going to need to correct the cash book because they are missing entries. Okay, yeah, so the things that have happened, they have occurred, we can see them in the bank, but they're not recorded in our cash book, so we need to put them through our cash book. Okay, so in terms of where I'm up to, Part A, check the items of the bank statement against the cash book. Yep, we've done all that, okay? So Part B, update the cash book as needed, okay? Fine. So look, what we'd seen up till now, okay, is that we could do the bit we'd done previously, okay, which is off the bank statement. Let's include the items off the bank statement, okay, that should be in our cash book. So we had the amount on the 12th of December that's on the bank statement, okay, from Simon & Co. Okay, so we had that receipt of 2478. Okay, yeah, so we'd identified on the bank statement that receipt, okay, of 2478. Okay, so Simon & Co. 2478 bit. So just a reminder, yeah, so we've picked up that 2478 receipt. We then have these 4 payments here, which are all in orange, which again we just need to go and pick up and write in the cash book because they really have happened. They've gone through the bank, okay, so we need to include those. So we have on the 13th of December, okay, we've got the direct debit to Walsh Limited of 900. Okay, we then have on the 20th, the direct debit for electric, okay, and that was what, 1250. And then on the 23rd, we have the bank charges, okay, so picking up the bank charges of £56, and also on the 23rd, we have the overdraft fee, which is the 25. Okay, so that's, as we've seen before already in this chapter, of things that are on the bank statement, okay, that didn't tick off to the cash book. Okay, we ignored the opening reconciling balance right at the start, and they were the things we saw. Now, the only other thing I need to go and do here, okay, is just in relation to this duplicate entry. Okay, remember we've said this is an error because we've basically put £1,550 into our account or into our cash book as a receipt twice, yet the reality is it's only a single receipt from a customer. Okay, so we've accidentally recorded that down as 2 separate receipts, and it's not 2 separate receipts, it's only one. Okay, so therefore what we're going to need to do is basically take it out. Okay, now rather than just going and delete that line, what I'm going to do is just go, right, number 1, say it's a duplicate, and well, if it's already gone in on the debit side, if we essentially just post it on the credit side as well, it cancels out. So the idea is those two balances, okay, will cancel out. We've said 1,550's gone in, 1,550's gone out. Well, the net of 1,550 going in and 1,550 going out is 0. In other words, nothing's happened. Okay, so we've put it in by mistake, so we're just going to take it out again. Okay, so we've just had to correct that duplicate amount there, okay, in terms of what's gone through. Okay, so it's just something we hadn't seen before. But what that means is that we have now updated our cash book as needed. Okay, so we've corrected those entries. So the next step then is looking to total off the cash books and balance this all off. Okay, so hopefully something we're familiar with by now. Now again, if you look at the debit side versus the credit side, the debit side is bigger. Okay, so therefore to balance this off, okay, we're coming down to 29,968. Okay, so 29,968 there is our balance. So therefore on the other side we also need 29,968. Okay, yeah, just to make that balance. The clear and obvious problem at this stage is that the credit side doesn't add up. It doesn't come to 29,968. So on the 23rd of December, to make this balance, we need to shove in a balance carry down figure, which is 2628. That's the missing number I need to make sure that the credit side balances off, which therefore means on the 24th of December, if the balance carried down at the end of the 23rd was 20,628, the balance I am bringing down on the start of the 24th should also be 2628. Okay, so just as we would normally, balancing off a T account essentially. Okay, yeah, so total it up, shove in your missing figures to get your 2628 balance. So in terms of where I'm up to, that has now completed for us part C. Okay, we have done that. We've totaled the cash book and balanced it all off. So now part D is to go and complete the bank rec, okay, reconciliation statement. So remember, this is where we need to start with the balance per the actual bank statement. Well, remember, the bank statement at the end of the period is showing that 21,498. Okay, so that's what the bank statement shows. So, bank rec, balance per the statement, 21,498. Okay, now remember, what do we add on? We add on any outstanding lodgements, okay, and we take off any unpresented checks. Okay, that's what we're adding on and taking away. Okay, is our outstanding lodgements and our unpresented checks. Now remember, these are the bits we can find from the cash book, and we'd identified our outstanding lodgement here and that chart topper. We've identified our unpresented checks, okay, from X Factor and Barlow Brothers. Okay, so we now can include those in our reconciliation statement. So add on the outstanding lodgement from chart topper. Okay, just one of them. Okay, so it's 500 quid. Therefore, the total amount to add on 500 quid. In terms of the unpresented checks, okay, this is where there was 2 of them. So we've got the amount to X Factor of 635, and we have the amount to Barlow Brothers of 735. So the total amount I'm going to take away then, £1,370. Okay, and then the balance per the final bit, the balance per the cash book. This is what we should get from the cash book. Okay, so remember, what was our final balance? Well, the figure we needed to balance this all off was the 2628. That's what we're saying was in the account at the end of the period. So our balance per our cash book is 2628. Okay, and then the question is, does 21,498 plus £500 less 1,370 all come down to 2628. Does that actually balance off? Yes, it does. We have correctly reconciled it. Okay, so again, we now know the only reason that the cash book and the bank statement is showing a different figure is because of timing differences. We've sorted out all the errors in between. Okay, so again, just a little bit more fiddly, that one. Okay, a little bit more complicated. Couple of little things in there, okay, where the opening balance didn't agree and just shoving in a duplicate entry for us, which is a little bit sneaky. They can do that in the assessment. There might be one or two things in there that are just a bit odd or a bit unusual, okay? But again, you could easily be asked to do something just like that in the assessment, okay? So need to be familiar with bank recs, how these things work. Hello, and welcome to a little bit now on digital bookkeeping systems and how this kind of fits in with bank reconciliations. Okay, now did sort of mention this earlier in the chapter about how the way we've looked at things up till now has kind of been very much assuming it's like a manual system, okay? In fact, when I very first started my first ever job working as an accountant, literally my very first task I was given to do on a Monday morning, having been there about, half an hour or so in a quick whistle-stop tour of the office, was I was given, literally, I think it was a farmer, and they had a manual cash book. I was given that. I was given a stack of bank statements and basically told to pick up a red pen and tick one after the other. And so I literally sat there with my red biro ticking something on the cash book when I could find it on the bank statement, okay? And that's kind of the process we've sort of run through so far about how to do it. The reality is these days that actually everybody does it digitally, okay? The days of manual cash books and sitting there and manually ticking off a cash book to a bank statement, okay, are largely gone. I mean, there'll be the odd person, okay, but the reality is everybody now is using software. Some of the more popular packages, especially for smaller companies, things like Sage or Zero, now offer, to be honest, fairly cheap accounting products that pretty much anybody can use. If you work for a large business, then there are things like SAP and Oracle, which are geared up for much bigger businesses, okay? But it doesn't matter, even if you're a very small business, the chances are you're doing things digitally, okay? And so it's just having a little bit of an awareness of that. Now, obviously, the way it's pitched is that it's really good to understand how like an old manual process works, so that you can understand these days how a digital system works. Now, software and AI is getting more and more and more clever, literally by the day, and so an awful lot of that very manual matching of a receipt to a payment, to be honest, these days is done by software. The software itself can actually link, okay, between itself and online banking. So things like Sage, things like Zero, those accounting packages, if they don't do it directly themselves, then there are add-ons and stuff you can get, and literally the AI software will be able to match up stuff that is sitting there in your cash book to stuff that is going through your bank statement, okay? So a lot of that process has become more and more and more automated, okay? So it's really just letting you to actually understand that, okay, that the kind of the matching bit, the idea of kind of ticking off the cash book to the bank statement, increasingly is not actually a human task, okay? Yeah, increasingly that is an AI computer type task. However, there may be things, okay, where the computer system still struggles, okay, or it can't identify it, and there may well be a bit of manual input actually required, okay? And so this lecture example down here, a bit of kind of thing you might have to do, okay, but it would just sort of indicate why there might be an issue that the computer system couldn't perfectly match off or reconcile an item, okay? So if we have a look at what we've got here, And we've got the following transaction has come into the business bank account. Okay, so we've got the date on the 27th of July. We've got an amount of 200. Okay, we've got who it's from, the account it's coming from is Kelly Harris. We've got a reference here, number for it, and we've got some details. So it's the kind of thing that if you log on to some online banking, and you had a receipt coming to your account, that's the sort of information, if you click on the entry, that you can very, very easily get and very, very easily see these days. Okay. Now, this is where the software itself, most of the time, will be able to identify it. Okay, but you might find that the sort of the software is 95% accurate or 98% accurate, something like that. There might be the odd transaction it struggles with. Okay, and so what we're asked to do is which is the correct transaction. Okay, now the thing is, what we've got to do is match it up. Now, what am I trying to match up? Okay, problem here is if you look, transactions 1, 2 and 3 would be sitting on our books as all owing us £200. So I can't use the amount because the amount here is the same for all three. So that's no good. Okay, to be honest, even the dates are so similar of these transactions that actually it's not really going to make, that's not particularly going to help either. So what I need to be doing is looking at the detail. Okay, and I need to be looking at the names and the invoice numbers. Now you can see as I do that, all three of them have got Harris. Okay, so you could see why an AI system might struggle. But looking at the name, the one that seems to be the best fit is down here. Okay, Kelly Harris. Given the fact that on the bank receipt we had Harris Kelly, that seems to be fitting quite nicely. The other massive thing we've got is invoice number there 910. Because actually, this one down here, look, is invoice 910. So looking at the name, looking at the invoice number, okay, that is how I can really distinguish that receipt must actually belong to transaction number 3, and that's where I would now click and put my tick. Okay, but as I said, the actual date and the amounts there don't really work. So you can see, looking at that, the similarities between them, why an AI system may possibly struggle with that, and that's the kind of thing they may throw out the odd transaction that it needs some human input on. So we would still expect, even in this digital age and digital world, that humans are still involved in the process. It's just that a lot of the very kind of manual, that what historically was referred to as the ticking and bashing, where you're sitting there and ticking off one thing to another, that is largely automated and increasingly more and more automated these days. Okay, but that's how we can still get some human input into this.